Hello, my name is Michael O'Keefe, aka The Movie Wizard. If you enjoy this interview and want to hear more top-notch film industry conversations, please press the thumbs up, subscribe to this channel, and hit the bell to stay in the know. Polaris Banks, tell my audience about Reklaw.
Oh, it's a short film that is premiering this week. It just premiered yesterday at the South by Southwest Midnight Shorts category, and it is kind of a hard movie to pitch because it's a lot of things at once. You know, it's very packed, but in a great way. Where it's about a group of vigilantes that are altruistic vigilantes. They swoop into crime scenes that they've intercepted the 911 call and indiscriminately destroy evidence because they believe that the justice system is messed up in America, and they think it'd be better to just let criminals go with it, you know, instead of putting them in prison and having them come out worse on the other side. But it gets a little complicated because some of those crimes, you know, they show up and it's, you know, something really despicable, or they think that the person who committed the crime is actually, you know, in the film they get surprised because somebody stumbles in on them while they're doing it, and they have to kind of decide if they're gonna have to like become murderers themselves or put themselves in danger. So it gets really sticky for them.
It was really cool to see Lance Henriksen in your short film. I enjoyed his performance in the movie Falling.
Right. You saw that? Yeah.
Yeah. So tell me about working with him.
Well, Lance, he's just a great guy. He does a lot of, you know, these big budget movies, but he'll also, you know, he just loves to work. So he'll do budgets of all kinds. And which is why he agreed to do this too. That he's such a great person for a filmmaker that's starting out to break into working with a movie star. He doesn't like special treatment. He's very down to earth. He's almost like aggressively like, I got him an Airbnb because his manager was like, yeah, get him a nice place to stay. And he wouldn't stay there. He's like, oh, I don't need that. I'll stay at the house with the other actors. And he wanted to stay there and bond with the cast because there's kind of a team element. He's great. And he really, for this particular movie, we didn't have time to rehearse. I couldn't afford to fly him in a day or two early and rehearse, and I was overworked and didn't have time myself. So we kind of had to find it there. So I've just got these 2 days with the guy, and I'm doing all of his scenes, you know, every shot of him in a row. He doesn't get to like take a break and watch the reverses. He is just working the entire time. And just shot by shot, we kind of found the character together. And we're like, oh, what's he doing in this? Okay, I feel like here we're trying to accomplish this. And he just... he's open to anything, and he likes the conversation. So he just wants to talk about it. And once it clicks into him that it makes sense what the character's motivations are and what he's accomplishing, he can do it. But it was a little rough because we're shooting on short ends, which are when you're working on film. We shot this on actual 35 millimeter film, but that can get expensive. So what happens on productions is if they don't finish a reel, they'll cut it and they'll sell what they didn't use and put it back in a can. So instead of working with 6 minutes of film per reel, I'm working with 3 minutes, 2 minutes, whatever. So Lance will just get going, and then I'm like, all right, reload. He's like, what? Where does this started? You know, he was a sport about it, but it definitely has this rhythm that all the actors were like, oh, it's hard to get going with this. And so it was really, I had a great cast, everybody, including Lance, and I needed a great cast to get through this and make it work.
So did you know someone who knew him, or did you reach out cold?
So this movie was kind of my little training for bigger budgets. So I spent, you know, more money on this, and I wanted to know how you go about hiring an established actor. So I started with Willem Dafoe, and I was like, I remember watching him in a short film in the mid 2000s. I was like, oh, I'm surprised he did one. So I looked up who the casting director was, and then I hired him to bother them because he had worked with a lot of actors in short film capacity. And he would reach out, and then I would, you know, make an offer, and then they would just accept it or not. But it takes forever. So anyone who wants to hire somebody, you know, Edward James Olmos or something to do a short film, know that it will take you 2 weeks to a month to even get an answer from each one. And so, you know, you start with your first choice, you wait, you start with second choice, you wait. And you just bother them every 2 weeks with a nice email being like, hey, you know, can I get an answer? Maybe. And they're like, yeah, we'll see. You know, he's on TV right now. We'll try. But Lance read the script, and he was my first choice And then I kind of talked myself out of it, and I was like, well, let me try some other people. But God will fix that for you when you're trying to cast a movie. It happens all the time. Whenever something doesn't work out, somebody doesn't make their flight, you got to replace them last minute. I'm always like, oh, this is better. I made a mistake. So, the fates are watching out for you when you make a film, because you're kind of working a lot with what fate allows to work out, So they're co-directing it with you.
Okay. Did you have any conscious cinematic influences for this particular project?
Maybe not conscious. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
There are people who take influence or not. A lot of people are saying it's kind of Pulp Fiction directed by Tim Burton with the Coen brothers or something,
Okay.
which are all directors I love. But for this particular movie, and I've said this before, the person, when I was writing this, and there's a feature version too that I condensed into this, and that's why it feels kind of bigger, because it feels like there's a lot of going on before and after. When I get stuck, I will pick up somebody else's script and read it, and it kind of demystifies it, where you go, well, what is what Boogie Nights? Ever since that's well written, what does his script looks like? And you're like, it's just words on a page or whatever. Yeah. And James Cameron's Aliens script, which is funny because Lance is in that. I just love reading it. I don't know if anyone's ever picked that up, but the scenes are really tight and well constructed, and the characters are well defined, and it's a team movie like my movie. But his scene descriptions are really good. Like the things you don't get to see in the movie, well, someone will come in and he'll describe them real quick and be like, when they're talking about Burke, I think he mentions that his tie is carefully undone to look just casual enough to seem approachable and all that. And I would try and do that when I wrote this, because when you're giving a script to a cast member or an actor you're trying to get, your first impression on I'm smart and talented is if the script has some poetry to it and impresses them. So anyway, I think Aliens is actually a movie that I wanted it to be tight and have that interesting kind of team in a frenzy thing. But our movie has so much humor and darkness and, kind of twisty. And so it's really kind of hard to compare to anything, really.
It's funny that Aliens is the one that pops out.
Yeah.
Interesting. So who are your favorite directors?
Oh, yeah. It's weird because I'll watch movies that I would never make, and I love William Friedkin for some reason. I don't know why. He's cool. And his behind the scenes stories are great, where he's just like, they told me not to do it and I just did it and said, sue me, and it's like, nice, cool. But I loved, when I was growing up, The Exorcist and stuff like that. I was like, this movie's just blowing me away. I saw it when I was in my teens, and when they brought it back to theaters, and I was like, I can understand why people fainted when they watched this. But who got me into it first when I was a little kid was Steven Spielberg. Like most people, I'd watch a lot of Indiana Jones and Jurassic Park, and I was very impressed with, when you're growing up in the early 90s, it's like there were a lot of movies that were practically your action figures come to life. You're watching RoboCop, Predator, and they're not dumb. They're actually very good. Yeah. And, you watch RoboCop and you go, this is like art. This is pretty good. And so I love movies like that. But as I got older, I definitely got into more kind of filmmakers who could do very subtle, nuanced storytelling. I wish I could think of one that I'm such a basic, when it comes to this stuff. I'm like Fincher and, all these ones people have heard of. But I'm kind of that way with music too, where I'm like, there's a reason that Led Zeppelin and Rage Against the Machine and the Beatles and all these, they have so many. They're so good at it. Of course, they're popular.
For sure. I saw a movie recently where an actor plays William Friedkin, and it was hilarious. Really? I forget what it was called. It was like an indie movie, and the guy does such a hilarious impression. He just goes, when I made The Exorcist, it was the zeitgeist of the time. Are you even familiar with the auteur theory and that the word framing is a Japanese term?
I love his off-screen persona too. Like he really does have kind of like this weird. He's kind of like radio. He's kind of like he has like a radio voice where he's and then we decided to go. He's very clear, And he was actually, I was watching him talk, and I have always known that directors have to be good communicators, but I was like, this guy does not fumble a word. Like, you can just, he says it, it's perfect, and you can just start rolling, I'm sure.
Yeah, he's cool. So tell me about staging the jail violence stuff. I enjoyed that part of the short.
Yes.
Yeah.
See, that was my favorite part to film personally, because I got to do it. And it, oh, I guess I didn't say that in this interview, that I kind of play one of the team members who's, he doesn't really talk because his backstory is he was in solitary for a while, and he's completely become a misanthrope. And that's why Lot kind of, and they even call him that, and they'll jokingly call him Missy. And that's why Lot's kind of taken him under his wing, is he's like, I think I can get to this guy. If anyone can, I can, and I'll show him. I'll not only show him forgiveness, I'll put him in line to forgive other people and be a part of that, part of what we do. And they're watching his prison security footage because he often gets harassed by other inmates and just kills them quickly because he doesn't want to. He's so anti. This misanthrope is so kind of anti-human and just like, you bother me, you're out of here. And so they're watching his old kind of choppy CCD camera footage. And I went to this prison in Utah that they have a jail they don't use anymore, and you can rent it for reasonably cheap. And it was in the winter, it was pretty cold. And so I got a bunch of local people there around Salt Lake and had them come dressed like inmates. And they still have the actual inmate uniforms. I bought a bunch to use, and I was like, oh, they actually have selections here. And we would just film them attacking this dude and him kind of retaliating, and and them getting hurt. And there's one where there's just one guy that is messing with me, and there's another one in the bathroom where we're all naked and and I'm stomping on somebody's head. But the most fun was I did the day room, and I took the TV off the TV stand, and I had them all kind of gang up on me, and I just had to climb up the wall and like kick off of people's shoulders and faces and stuff to get up there and hide while they threw stuff at me. And yeah, it's that was great, and it was very authentic looking because we got an old camera, like a little tiny noisy cricket, camera, like a soccer mom would use for just filming, stuff that I mounted in the corner. And so I didn't do any effects on that. I did make the frame rate slower, but it really does look that crappy. It's like, this is our thing. And we ended up using that same camera for dailies because our 35 millimeter cam I bought from Europe when Ari was kind of liquidating some of their film stuff, because everyone's using the Alexa now. And it had an old SD PAL signal that no monitor could use and record. So I had to I had to buy that camera for two reasons. I use it for dailies too, so I could check my takes.
Okay. So what does it mean for you personally to have this short included in South by Southwest this year?
Oh man. So South by is, it's one of the top probably 6 festivals in the world. And so everyone, when they start, Sundance, South by, Cannes, or San Francisco, all those. Yeah. And I've been working on this short for years and spent a lot of money on it, and it's been my it's like not even my job, it's like my lifestyle. It's like some people like surf, and I just work on the movie every day and spend my money on it. And you just kind of, after spending that much of your time and effort into it, you're like, I don't even know if this was all work. I don't even know how good this thing is. Was it even worth it? Is like, this gonna go anywhere? Did I just waste 5 years, picking in this thing? And it was the 3rd festival I applied to, and they accepted it. And it was, not only do I like their program, and I was like, oh great, I get to go to South by, I was more like validated. And you don't want to admit that you just need someone to say you're good enough, but you really do, especially when you're trying to get something made. People won't read your script, or maybe you want to be hired on if you don't have a stamp from somewhere being like, somebody said this was good enough. Which goes back to having a casting director. A lot of people are like, why can't I just email a movie star myself and be like, will you be in my movie? And I go, somebody needs to read your script first and say, this is worth bothering you, and there's a lot of stamps of approval when it comes to making movies, these people in the middle. And that's what a film festival is. It's kind of like it's almost like a review, and they gave you 5 stars and said you could be part of it.
That's interesting. Tell me about your crew.
See, that was really fun because it's half people I've never met, who I just try and get the best I can get every time I put out. This is how much money I'm willing to spend, and this is what I need. And I just cast people I don't in the crew. People I've never worked with who I just think are the best I can get, and half of them were that. And they were all very nice. I made a bunch of new friends. And the other half are just people I grew up with in high school. And I'm treating this like a destination wedding, going like, everybody fly in. It's my big shoot. And you all have to hold a boom, pole or, be a grip or something.
Yeah.
And so a lot of them were just just people I knew, family members. But the ones who I did bring in, I had already done a lot of pre-work, so the cinematographer was very good and he was great to work with, but I had already taken a camera and like video storyboarded everything I could and picked my lenses that way. And so I could actually show him the shot and go, so this is what we're starting with. This is the lens and the distance I like and the motion with it. And then he, on top of that, could then worry about f-stops and lighting and little touches you can do with operation. So it was... It wasn't, I needed this to really work out. I had everyone coming and I spent all this, it was a very expensive kind of day by day thing. And I didn't have that much money. So I had to pre-plan my brains out, and every crew member showed up and was very much like, oh, you already kind of got this taken care of. And I'm like, yeah, but there's a lot of room for you to add your stamp. And in post, I was very, very happy with the sound mixer, and the score was great. We got to record with real instruments, and David Kokonchev did he's fantastic. We're actually really good friends now. We really clicked, and he's fantastic because he kind of assigned an instrument to each character. So he'd be like, oh, Bangs is talking, we have a little bit of clarinet, and and Donna is the flute and all that, and I think I'm the trombone. And it's kind of like Peter and the Wolf, where if you listen, they're all kind of associated with something.
Well, that's neat. Can you give us maybe a synopsis of how you started getting into production?
So yeah, I wanted to. I guess I'm not in production really professionally, where I'm like a little movie hermit, where I've done other people's films and I've worked on things and I've acted and I've done camera department and all that, but I'm just worried that, if I die tomorrow, I didn't make something that I would be proud to leave behind and was what I wanted to get into, which is why this movie's so extensive. Is I'm like, I want to shoot on 35 before, I die. I want to make kind of feature type, story and have, a movie star and, big set. And so I kind of years ago opted to kind of retire from working on other people's crews and just 100% just make my own stuff. Which, when you're a director, that's kind of, if you look at the story of a lot of directors, the Coen brothers, stuff like that, that's kind of what they had to do. They would edit for other people, but then after a while they went, we just have to just start making our own stuff and just disappear and come back with a movie and make Blood Simple or something. So I started working on crews professionally when I was probably 19, but when I was around 27, I would only do it if my brother Hilarion, who also does films, he'll like pull me in once a year and go, hey, I'm flying to Japan. I need somebody who's not going to complain about this huge, distance and working, all this difficult stuff. So pretty much I reluctantly work in other people's films who I know, and otherwise I don't seek it out professionally. Not right now. Yeah.
Fair enough. Polaris, thanks for your time. Any final words on Reklaw before I let you go?
Oh no, it's I'm just really happy to share it with everybody. It's got a lot of surprises in it and a lot of little twists we haven't talked about that I just want everyone to check it out if they can. So if you don't have a South by Southwest pass, we're putting it on MailChimp, and some other sponsor are putting it on streaming for 60 days. So
cool.
Look out for it. It'll be in maybe next month. It'll be available for everybody.
Groovy. Well, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mike.